The sky is blue, the birds are singing, and the docket is full. Welcome to the sound of the start of your weekend, the NTT20 betting show. It's sponsored by AK Bets. It's me, Ali Maxwell, him, George Elek, making betting picks ahead of the EFL weekend, which at the moment, clearly we're finding quite difficult based on recent results. As we're making betting picks, and betting comes with risks, please make sure that you are gamble aware. This podcast is very strictly for over 18s only. Last week, George -5. I'm afraid Fleetwood lost to Carlisle. Sunderland drew 2-2 with Argyle rather than winning to 0. That was also my nap. David McGoldrick had 5 shots, no goals. And Cheltenham did beat Salford, but not by 1-0. Your long shot hitting the post there. I got a push for my next best. That was Gills' draw no bet. They drew. That was as good as it got. Zach Jules, long price, anytime goalscorer, had a shot against Burton, but no goal. And my win to 0 double. Cole, you did the business. Fleetwood didn't. And that was absolutely horrendous. Very much in keeping with my record since coming back from pat leave. Trying not to hold it against Matilda Maxwell. But
the opposite. In golf, there's a thing that normally, if you have a baby, quite soon after you have a baby, you win a competition, you win a tournament. And the theory around this is that, your life becomes a bit simpler and your brain is less clouded, and you realise that actually, what matters in life is your family. And I reckon the same thing's happened to you, but it's just gone the other way, where you've actually, you've just thought, actually, you know what? Let's go some vibes picks. Let's just have a nice time. I've got a daughter, so it's great. And I need you to now refocus and remember that this is important. Okay?
Yeah, it's going to change this weekend. I'm pretty confident of that. It's such a nice day. Done a bit of exercise for the first time this week since having a child, and my perspective has just sharpened, George. So let's hear what your perspective is on the best bet of the weekend in the EFL.
I think the best bet of the weekend has to be Shrewsbury Town to beat Mansfield at 5-2. Just a mad price about a Shrewsbury side who have quite noticeably improved quite a lot since Gareth Ainsworth walked into the club. And that shouldn't really be a surprise. We kind of said when he first arrived, it could probably go one of two ways. Either they buy into him and it improves, or they don't. And as we've seen before, it won't go so well. He has made them very hard to beat. So hard to beat, in fact, they've only lost 3 games since he came in. All 3 of them have been away from home, and all 3 of them have been 1-0 defeats. Like, that is showing that teams are finding it really difficult to put any kind of gap between them and Shrewsbury, which wasn't the case beforehand. When you look at just their home games, which is where they're strongest, they were last seen at home beating Wrexham, a team who are in contention for automatic promotion out of League One. They beat Lincoln, a team in contention to finish in the playoff places in League One. A frustrating 1-1 draw with Northampton in the middle of that. But they are really consistently showing an aptitude for the defensive side of things, where they're really hard to break down. Gareth Ainsworth has made them much tougher to do so. And, from attacker's perspective, it's still not great, but we're seeing John Marquis certainly getting more opportunities to score. And as we saw against Wrexham, they are very capable at home of putting themselves, making themselves the better team in the game and winning it. And it helps. They're coming up against a Mansfield side here who are understandably rated much higher than Shrewsbury, but are on a bit of a soul-searching mission at the moment, having gone through a really difficult run of form. Looking at Mansfield's games, they've lost 3 on the bounce. Those 3 games, one was against Wickham, which you can understand, but then they've lost to 2 teams in the relegation zone in Cambridge and Crawley. And I would currently say that Shrewsbury are probably the team I rank the highest out of the 4 relegation sides. So I'm really keen on this. I think Mansfield very much trending in the wrong direction, Shrewsbury very much on the upward curve, and we're just about getting them before I think the prices snap into motion. So yeah, 2-point nap, 5-2, straight on the nose. Shrewsbury to do the job at home against Mansfield.
Straight in my nostrils. Bit of Gareth Ainsworth, bit of Shrewsbury. You're quite sweet on all that at the moment. Has been clear over the last few weeks. I am worried about Swansea City and cynically trying to capitalise on that concern by backing their opponents, Coventry City, to beat them as my best bet of the weekend. They are 9-5 as we record with AK Bets. The price has been dropping all day Thursday. As we record, the AK Bets 9-5 is best price. But I dare say, and I suppose in a way I hope, this will go off shorter. Swansea are in a bit of a bind at the moment, and there's probably 5 strong bullet points about why I should be concerned about Swansea. Starting with the on-field stuff, 1 point from their last 5 games. They've lost 4-0, 3-0 and 5-1 in that time, the 2 home games, and they are at home in this game. They lost fairly narrowly to Sheffield United, having had the lead early, and drew 1-1 with West Brom. The main concern with Swans isn't necessarily how they are at 0-0 and how they are to start games. It's the alarming drop-off in their performance levels from first half to second half. And I think that is both a technical issue, perhaps an issue of athleticism and fitness, but possibly mainly some sort of psychological weakness that they have. Anyone who watched the game against Norwich last week knows what I'm talking about, really. Just completely folded under any pressure, really, from Norwich, who ended up cantering to a 5-1 win. Against Sheffield, they were 1-0 up in the first half, conceded 2 in the second half to lose. Against Cardiff, it was 0-0 at half-time. They end up losing 3-0. Against Pompey, 2-0 at half-time. They end up losing 4-0. So a lot to be unimpressed with at the moment when it comes to Swansea on the pitch. But that's not all. Absolutely insane situation and kind of incredibly dramatic, I would suggest, because transfers are dramatic, aren't they, is that Matt Grimes, their captain, is signing for Coventry, their opponents. And he's probably going to be announced today or tomorrow, Friday. Might he play in this game for Coventry at Swansea? I suspect there will be a gentleman's agreement between the clubs that he won't play for Coventry, because I actually think his presence in a Coventry shirt could be quite incendiary here. And things are simmering, boiling, possibly even, within the Swansea fan base. A lot of the eye are being directed at the ownership. It's been quite an unhappy period of ownership in terms of the fans' approval rating of these owners, and it's only getting worse at the moment. They're not happy with the transfer business. They're not happy with the way the club is being run. I don't think there's much support for the manager, Luke Williams, at the moment. Things like 3-0 defeats away at your biggest rivals, Cardiff. Things like his quotes surrounding the reported interest in West Brom, trying to hire him, which they didn't. That didn't help. But Grimes is massive. Is his absence from this Swansea team being priced in? Because he's the captain of the team. He's played every single minute this season. He played every single minute last season. He's had the most touches in the division, the most passes into the final third in the division, the most progressive passes in the division, all of that per FB ref. He is the player around which their entire style of play, the Swansea way, is structured. And it's not like they have a sort of Grimes Mark II in the building. He'll be replaced, I think, in this game by Jay Fulton. And that's not a Matt Grimes understudy, right? So there's the Grimes thing. There's also the Darling thing. Harry Darling suspended for this game after being sent off against Sheffield United.
Also being linked to a move away.
And being linked to a move away, which hasn't helped the mood around the place. The only game they've played since Darling was suspended, and him and Kabanga have been such a tight unit all season. They lost 5-0 to Norwich and looked horrendous at the back, with the new lad Delcroix, who came in from Burnley, having not played a minute this season, looking pretty rusty. Key and Timon, I quite like them going forward as fullbacks. I don't like them very much defensively as fullbacks. It's not a balanced back line. It's not a very well-balanced team at the moment. And I think there could be, I often use the word mutiny to describe this, when a fan base is boiling over, and it is a bit over-dramatic. But I think we all know the sorts of noises, the sorts of energy that will be coming from the stands if Coventry take the lead here. There's very little for Swansea fans to like at the moment. Their favourite player is leaving for the team they're playing this weekend, who are in the same ballpark as them in the league table, for a fee that they don't think is worth it. Probably their best centre-back is suspended. They don't have that many other players that they like at this moment in time. They don't like the manager seemingly that much, and they hate the board. So it's pretty bleak, I would say, at this moment in time. And it might pass, and they might be fine. They might finish in mid-table and go again and reset and calm down. But right now, worried about Swansea City. Coventry have won 3 games in a row. For the first time this season, they're starting to get the results that reflect their truer level, I think, than the first half of the season. Only goal they've conceded in their last 3 was an own goal as well. So I'd like them to just keep it going. And I think if they do, particularly with Thomas Asante and Sims up top at the moment, really athletic mobile front two that I think could cause a lot of problems for the fullbacks and centre-backs. Coventry is my nap at 9-5 with AK bets. What's your next best?
Sheffield Wednesday to beat Luton in 23-20 is my next best.
And I thought it might be.
I've spoken about Luton a lot on the pod over the last couple of weeks, I'm not seeing any signs of improvement whatsoever from them. They are being quite aggressive in the transfer market. But again, it kind of reminds me of the Matt Bloomfield appointment, where they're making the kind of signings that I would really like if they were doing it as a team that had just finished 14th in the Championship in the summer, building towards a new era, rather than a team that really need to address some pretty pressing concerns about being relegated into League One, and going out and signing Thelo Asgard, who clearly is a player that should be playing in the Championship, but expecting him to come in and be someone who can immediately inject quality, an injection of quality into a side that, for the most part, playing Premier League football last season. The same with Ali from Exeter, with Kone from Wickham. Like it seems like a really risky strategy to be highlighting kind of good young League One talent when you're in this position they're currently in, and it reflects exactly what they did by going after good young League One talent in Matt Bloomfield to try and improve results. I'm not entirely sure that it's working. We haven't seen an improvement whatsoever in terms of their performances so far. At times they've been better defensively in the opening game against Preston, but against Oxford they were absolutely horrendous defensively. Against Millwall, we saw a missed penalty from Aaron Connolly, saved them a little bit, but they still ended up conceding a very good goal from Ivanovic to lose the game 1-0, offering very little from an attacking standpoint. You and I are on many a WhatsApp group together, and in the run-up to the
155 WhatsApp groups together.
And in the run-up to the Oxford game, I just kept messaging you on various different ones, being like, I just cannot understand why Luton are being backed. Like, I can't understand why Oxford are going off bigger than 2-1 at home to Luton. And even though they took the lead twice, from basically two very rare attacks within the game, they ended up coming undone due to a poor defensive display. And since then, they've been beaten again at home 1-0. Their away record this season is 1 win, 1 draw, and all the rest are defeats. The win and the draw came within their first 3 games. Since then, it's been 3-1, 2-0, 3-2, 5-1, 3-0, 4-2, 2-0, 1-0, 2-1, 2-1, 3-2. So they've only conceded 1 goal in one of those games. In every single other game, they've conceded either 2 or more goals. Up against the Sheffield Wednesday side, who are pretty strong at home. They've only lost 4 games at home this season. They're unbeaten in their last 8 at home. In their last 4 home games, they've scored 2-4, 2-2. This is a recipe for Sheffield Wednesday just to roll Luton over. And of course, at some point between now and the end of the season, because Matt Bloomfield isn't bad and because the squad isn't bad, there probably will be a moment, and there'll be a day where things start to improve and Luton do start to turn it around. It might be too late in terms of their promotion hopes, and it might come on Saturday, but I don't see any evidence to think it will happen on Saturday. I don't understand at all why we're seeing Luton a sea of blue on Oddschecker over the last 24 hours or so, being backed across the board with Sheffield Wednesday drifting out from odds on to odds against. Can't see it. 23-20 about a Wednesday win has to be the value.
Maybe Tony Bloom rates Matt Bloomfield. Bristol Rovers.
He famously only backs things because of their name, so it would make sense.
And or the colour of the shirts. He likes that as well. It's a good approach in horse racing, I always think. Bristol Rovers 2.9, 19-10. That's my next best. They are at home to Peterborough United. This one, I was pleasantly surprised as a big armchair EFL fan at the moment on account of Le Bébé. This one's at 3 p.m. on Sunday and it's live on Sky, competing with first Brentford Spurs and then Arsenal against Man City. I know which one I'll be watching. And it's the game that I'm sort of nicknaming Whoever Loses Panics. Bristol Rovers 19th on 28, having played 27 games. Peterborough 18th on 30, having played 1 game more. They are 4 and 6 points above the bottom 4 respectively, but that bottom 4 is growing in their rearview mirror on account of Burton's 3 wins in a row, on account of Shrews, as you say, picking up more points under Gareth Ainsworth. It's not funny anymore for Bristol Rovers and Peterborough. These poor seasons are not funny anymore, and I just find the prices here really interesting. I want to make the most of it and back Bristol Rovers because this was a real, like, looking down the docket, first up, huge, like, gut instinct, like, whoa, okay, that is not at all how I would see it right now. The first thing to say is that these are 2 really poor teams in poor form. That adds a bit of volatility to proceedings, I would suggest. They're both teams that concede a lot of goals in particular, so it could be quite a high-scoring affair. In the last 3 months, both Bristol Rovers and Peterborough have picked up less than 1 point per game, which just shows that, trending downwards over the last couple of months. And yet, with the prices as they are, Rovers 19 to 10, Posh 13 to 10 with AK bets, that would suggest that if the game was played at a neutral venue, Posh would be around an even money price. And I am just not having that at all at the moment. I know what it comes down to. It comes down, as all EFL prices do at the moment, to their underlying performance metrics, which are better than Bristol Rovers'. Rovers' have been among the worst in the division for the whole season, whereas Peterborough obviously started the season relatively well, thanks in large part to Kwame Poku being way too good for the level since he's been injured, plummeting. But understanding that their metrics are better and that Rovers' are terrible, there are very clear differences between both teams' home performances and away performance, home results and away results, comfort playing at home and discomfort playing away from home. Rovers have 18 points from 12 home games, 1.5 points per game, and only 10 from 15 away. Peterborough have 22 from 16 at home, but only 8 from 12 away. And we're on the home team here, who have proven themselves much more comfortable playing at home against a team that have lost 8 of their 12 away games, and who lost 5-1 in their last away game last Saturday, prompting their manager to call them the softest team he has ever managed. Read them the riot act. Now, did they follow that up with a 1-0 win at home to Wigan, where Wigan didn't have a shot on target on Tuesday? Yes, they did. But my thoughts on Wigan will follow in the next 15 minutes or so. I don't think that this idea of Peterborough being a really soft team that don't just suck it up and grind out results and defend properly, I don't think that's vanished just because they got a 1-0 home win against Wigan after their manager said some mean things about them. And I think it's the sort of personality trait of a team that rears its head away from home rather than at home, where they're a bit more comfortable in front of their home fans. So I want to be on Bristol Rovers just shy of 2-1 here to beat a Peterborough team that, I couldn't believe what I saw in that Lincoln game. And I really don't trust in them to keep any opposition at bay. Bristol Rovers have plenty of good individual attacking players, even if, as a team, they are also desperate. I think the 19 to 10 is more than good enough to back Bristol Rovers at home here. 19 to 10 at home to Peterborough. For anyone looking to sign up to AK Bets, use promo code NTT100. If you do, the link's in the show notes. You click it, it'll take you to the site and it'll apply the promotion. The promotion is that if your first bet is an accumulator on football with a minimum of 4 selections, AK Bets will boost the profit gained on that initial bet by 25% in the form of a free bet and up to a value of £100. Further T's and C's are accessible on the website. Click the link in the description to take advantage of the sign up offer. I'd like you to find me someone with goals at their core, a goals scorer.
Goals scorer, Grady Dean Garner. He is
Nice.
3-1 to score any time for West Bromwich Albion. He is getting the Tony Mowbray treatment at the moment. It feels like Mowbray has come in, as we know he does. He sees himself as someone who is very good at developing young talent. And if you look at what he did, especially with Amad Diallo at Sunderland, when he was Sunderland manager and Diallo was there on loan, this is kind of what Mowbray is all about. It's taking young players and getting them to flourish. And the way that he's spoken, as he spoke about on the Monday pod about Dean Garner since coming in, the way that Dean Garner played in the 5-0 win on Saturday, the way that Dean Garner scored 2 goals in that game. He's a player who's been really short of form and confidence for the last couple of seasons. But Mowbray clearly sees someone that we know is capable of doing much better than what we've seen in recent times. He's someone who has consistently scored goals at the level when he's played a lot of minutes. He scored 8 goals in his debut season in just under 2,000 minutes. And even last season, and a season that I don't really feel like he made a massive impact at Baggies. He scored 7 goals and got 8 assists. The goal output is massively there. And already this season, he's scored 4 goals. When he's fit and firing, he's a massive goal threat. Baggies go to Argyle. Yes, I know that Argyle fans are buoyant after the 2-2 draw away at Sunderland, but they still conceded 2 goals. They still conceded 5 goals last time they played at home against Burnley, albeit in the first half. Even if Plymouth Argyle are to massively improve, my assumption is it'll come because their attacking play improves and because they'll score goals. I don't think they're going to suddenly become a team that are really strong defensively. And given the way the Mowbray team's set up and the way that his teams generally look to attack games and approach them, I think we could see a lot of goals on Saturday between Argyle and West Brom. And if we do, then Dean Garner has to be one of the most likely goal scorers. So yeah, 3-1, I think is a fair price for him normally, but he's getting the Tony treatment and 3-1 therefore has to be a slice of value.
Diangana's one of those players that will always be a young player, even though he's 26. Like, even when he's 30, I'll be like, oh, young Grady. I can't wait for him to fulfill his potential.
It's a great point. But yeah. Okay, sorry, Grady. I've done you a disservice there. I think Grady's quite a young name. It's like Cody.
Yeah.
You can't imagine there being old Grady's.
Well, also, and Mowbray's whole...
Crucially, I reckon Tony Mowbray thinks Grady Diangana's 22. So
yeah, for
that's
sure.
What matters.
Young. He's calling him young Grady when he's at home, like chatting about his new squad. Young Grady on the left, the things he can do. Unbelievable ball manipulator. That's one of his favourite phrases, isn't it? I'm going to do a quiz to start my Goalscorer section. George, who do you think has scored the most? I know it's stressful when I drop a quiz on you in the pod without warning you. So, but I think if you just take a breath and think about this for 5-10 seconds, you'll get the answer. Who do you think has scored the most League One goals since the start of the 21-22 season? So 3.5 seasons.
I was going to say Dion Charles, but I don't think you're going to be putting him up.
Quite famous for scoring 20 goals in bad teams, then going to a good team and scoring 20 goals again, and now playing for the best team in the league. Alfie May, 76 goals. Sir Alfred of May is the top League One goal scorer. Now, second on that list, and thank you for asking, might surprise you, is Sam Smith of Reading. Probably won't surprise you, actually, because you're a smart guy and an EFL observer. Sam Smith of Reading has scored 54 goals in that time, 2 seasons with Cambridge and then 18 months with Reading. He's my goal scorer pick. AK Bets have priced him up at 5-2, which I think is very nice for a home game against Bolton. Bit of an unknown Bolton at the moment. They sacked Ian Evatt and they've only gone and won 2-2. And all their fans are like, yeah, we told you. We just needed to sack Ian Evatt and then we'll win games again. Can't argue with it at this moment in time. Not 100% sure what they're going to look like in this game. And Reading themselves, a little bit volatile at the moment, drifting down the table under Noel Hunt in the Ruben Sayas vacuum. But these teams overall, Bolton away from home, they're not locking teams down. They've conceded 1.54 goals per game away from home this season. Reading have scored 2 goals a game at home. They are at the Madstad. They attack hard, and they're quite good at it. Now, Sam Smith is their number 9. He's got great availability, and he gets shots off, and he scores goals. He has scored in 10, any time has landed, I should say, in 10 of 24 games this season. That's 41.6%. In 6 of 12 home games this season, that's 50%. 7 of 18 last season. He's had a shot on target in 10 of his 12 home games. He took and scored a penalty in the reverse fixture. It's the only pen they've had all season, so I think he'll take the pen if they win one. And just over the last year and a half since he joined Reading, anytime has landed in 24 of 56 starts. 43% that has landed. And a 5-2 price implies a 28.6% chance. So I think that's a decent sample size to know that Sam Smith scores goals for Reading, a decent lick, and even more so when he's at home. 5-2, Sam Smith, anytime, my goal scorer. Long shot.
Doncaster -2 at home to MK Dons at 15-2 is my long shot. Huge price because MK Dons are really bad at the moment. I don't know what's happened. It feels like a club that are properly falling apart. Do not be fooled by the 2-1 scoreline in midweek against Harrogate. They were second best in that game. They didn't deserve to win it at all. When Harrogate scored in the 92nd minute, it was the least they deserved, and then somehow Alex Kilby goes the other end and gets a winner. It feels like a pretty unhappy camp. I'd be amazed if Scott Lindsay is their manager in the start of next season, for example, because it doesn't really feel like things are necessarily working there. Pretty bullish a few months ago that they were, under him, going to break into the top 7, and I don't know what's fallen apart. And in Doncaster, the only thing that kind of concerns me is Donny, a much better team on the road than they are at home, fairly consistently, but coming off the back of a really impressive 3-1 win away at Barrow. And I think they're the kind of team that will really relish coming up against an MK Dons side who they'll fancy themselves against and to punish them. And we know that when they do play well, Donny, they normally score a few goals to go alongside it. It wouldn't surprise me if this is kind of the nadir for MK Dons and they get absolutely spanked. And it could be the moment that people wake up to what's going on there, because the underlying numbers are bad, the performances are bad, and the results are bad. So big anti-MK stance, this one, which I wouldn't have expected a few weeks ago, but you have to go by the performances. And against Doncaster, they've got a difficult opponent who are looking in a pretty good position to be a team that finished in the top 3 this season. So 15-2, Donny -2 is my long shot.
Absolutely spanked is what you've gone for there. I am, for my long shot, predicting what's one down from a spanking. Just a little whack for Lincoln at Wigan. Now the bet is, and it's on the AK Bets special section, they've built it nicely there. Lincoln 1-0 or 2-0, correct scoreline, away at Wigan, and the price is 9-2. This is, I think, a stylistic nightmare for Wigan, who very consistently under Sean Maloney over the last 18 months have shown that even if he has built a reputation as being a manager with a possession-based philosophy who wants his teams to be technical and play through the thirds and keep the ball and manipulate the ball and build attacks, the proof has been so far away from the pudding on that front, to the extent where, like, Wigan are better playing away from home than they are at home. I feel like they're more likely to pick up points against better teams than teams beneath them in the league table. They've got in this very strange situation where they're really insipid when the onus is on them to attack and break a team down. They really don't have many answers. And their one good answer from the last few months was Tello Asgard, who became this excellent box-crashing, goal-scoring number 10 and has moved to Luton. He's a championship-level player. He's now playing in the championship with a transfer fee to boot. What happens to a team like Wigan, who have a championship-level attacking player, when you take him out, when they're a team that already don't score very many goals? Asgard scored 9 of their last 18 goals in all competitions. There's a big hole there now. I mean, their record at home is poor this season. They've won 4, lost 6. They've scored less than a goal a game in front of their home fans, 12 in 13. They lost home to Burton recently, away at Posh. Midweek, they didn't have a shot on target. They're just a really poor attacking team. And it's a stylistic nightmare because Lincoln are also a poor attacking team, really, but they're pretty strong defensively. And you can normally guarantee that their shape will be good, that they will first and foremost look to keep the opposition at bay and try and keep a clean sheet. And I think they can do that against this Wigan side that I think, missing their best player, not a good stylistic matchup for them. Obviously, the big question mark then is, will Lincoln be able to score the goals to beat Wigan? They've got 17 points from their 14 away games, which isn't great. They've won 4. 3 of the scorelines would have won this bet. 1-0, 1-0, 2-0. They had a 3-2 on opening day away at Burton. The way I see this game is that it'll be tight, but I'm definitely on the side of Lincoln City. I'd really be surprised if they cut loose and score 3, 4, 5 goals, like they did last week at home to Peterborough, for example. But I just don't see Wigan having many answers. I think they're going to miss Asgard. I think there's a real stale atmosphere around the place. I think it gives opportunities to away teams to come, play decent football, defend well, nick a goal from a set piece, and leave with a 1-0 or maybe a 2-0 win. That's my long shot. Lincoln 1-0 or 2-0 to beat Wigan at 9-2. We've got an unders quad to finish. It's at 13-2. These unders prices are getting shorter and shorter because, particularly in the last few months as the winter is set in, the goals per games across all 3 leagues have dropped significantly. I did notice that in the last 8 rounds of fixtures, you can use soccer stats to look at goals, overs and unders in that time. 60% of the games in League 2 have gone unders in the last 8 rounds of fixtures, 48% in League 1, 50% in the Championship. So League 2 particularly lacking goals at the moment. George, which 2 are you adding to our quad?
Yeah, the game you just mentioned there, Wigan against Lincoln being one of them. If we take out the 5-1 Lincoln win over Peterborough, they're a team that normally is 0s and 1s. 1-0 win over Northampton, 0-0 with Stevenage, 1-0 over Rotherham, even the 2-0 defeat last time against Blackpool. It's fairly rare that we're seeing their games be particularly end-to-end. Wigan, as you say, have lost a massive goal threat and creative player in Tello Asgard, which I think should hamper their already not great attacking threat. None of their games have gone over 3 goals since a 2-2 draw against Shrewsbury back in the middle of December. So 2 teams where we're seeing pretty little goalmouth action. And then Morecambe Fleetwood under their new boss, who we know, Pete Wild, is someone who's going to get them very well drilled defensively. I don't know what happened in a bit of an aberration the other day from their perspective against Carlisle, where they lost the game 2-1, but again, it was tight. Their games are generally, I don't know if they're going up, it's going to be huge, but they're going to be solid defensively up against a Morecambe side who we know don't score too many goals. So they're my 2.
Yeah, I'm adding 2 in League 2. Cheltenham versus Chesterfield. It's quite a decent price, I think, partly because Chesterfield's just kind of known as a bit of a goalsy team. But I think if you look closer, last few weeks and months, particularly thanks to injuries all over the pitch, they really have slowed down in an attacking sense. They've made some defensive reinforcements. Donassian, McFadden have joined, which I think makes them stronger at defending their box. 5 of their last 8 games have gone unders, Chesterfield. They travelled to Cheltenham, who have had 8 of their last 14 go under 2.5, and that is going in there. Tranmere versus Colchester is the 4th. Tranmere have had 3 of their last 8 go overs, 5 of 8 have gone unders. But if you look at the 3 that have gone overs, one of them was their last game against Swindon, where they were 1-0 up and there was nothing happening in the game. Got a red card. Swindon scored 3 from the 86th minute onwards. Unlikely to be repeated. They lost 5-1 at Walsall, where they're just so much worse than Walsall that they got absolutely thrashed. And 3-1 against Doncaster, where it was a pretty similar story, but mostly against teams outside of those top 2, as they are. I think Tranmere games are 0-0, 1-0, normally to the opposition, 1-1 maybe. And for Colu, it's just remarkable. Only 1 game of their last 8 has gone over 2.5. They've kept clean sheets in 8 of their last 12 games. They've only scored more than 1 goal in 1 of their last 6, and it was in a 3-2 defeat against Swindon, where there were a lot of penalties in that game. The only one of their last 8 that's gone over 2.5 goals. So the quad is Wigan Lincoln in League 1, and then Morecambe Fleetwood, Cheltenham Chesterfield, and Tranmere Colchester in League 2. Under 2.5 goals fourfold at 13-2. You can back it on the special section of the football part of the AK Bets website. Thank you to AK Bets for sponsoring this podcast, and to you for listening. George, I'm going to recap my selections and then we'll hear from you. Mix it up a little bit. Coventry, 9-5. My nap. Bristol Rovers, 19-10. My next best at home to Peterborough. My goal scorer is Sam Smith of Reading at 5-2, home to Bolton. My long shot, Lincoln, 1-0 or 2-0. Correct scoreline, 9-2. That one on the special section of the AK Bets website. Yours?
Yeah, Shrewsbury to beat Mansfield at 5-2 is my nap. Sheffield Wednesday to beat Luton at 23-20 is my next best. Grady Diangana to score any time for Baggies at Argyle at 3-1 to my goal scorer. And Doncaster -2 at home to MK Dons is my long shot. Again, worth pointing out that AK Bets do look after you guys. We can't promise these prices will hang around for too long, but they do. They're up there. They're live now. They'll be live on Thursday evening. So if you do listen to this and you want to get on those prices they push out, generally to at least match the biggest amongst the kind of high street bookmakers, then definitely do that, because it's worth taking the bigger prices you possibly can. Well, it is if we only winners up, at least.
The unders quad at 13-2. Wigan Lincoln, Morecambe Fleetwood, Cheltenham Chesterfield, Tranmere Colchester. Thank you guys for listening. Have an unbelievable weekend full of fun, football, maybe a few winners. Cheers. Go out.